lovely friends, it's Margaret, and it is time for a very special Fresh Reads Friday. Today, we're going to be talking about The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. For those of you that have been on my channel for a little bit of time, you would know that this was one of my most anticipated releases of the year, if not my most anticipated release, because like Wicked King came out, and then a couple of months later she announced that this was getting released this year as well, and I was just like, it replaced every other book as my most anticipated release of 2019. For those of you that don't know, Fresh Reads Friday is the series on my channel where I talk about a book that I have enjoyed recently and think that you will enjoy too. This is obviously a spoiler-free review, but there will be a spoilery chat that I will be posting in conjunction with this video because there was no way I could not talk about some of my favorite parts in this book. This review is going to be more about what I liked, what I didn't like, characters, plot, world-building stuff that's not too spoilery, and then I will go into full, lovely, wonderful detail in my spoiler chat that I will be doing later on. Obviously, I can't talk about the plot of this book because it is the third book in a series, but I will tell you a little bit about the Cruel Prince. This series starts off with Jude Duarte. Her mom was married to a fairy. She realized she did not want to raise her children in Elfheim, which is the fairy land, and so she ran away with a mortal dude, and they got married. The problem is, she took this fairy dude's kid with her. She was pregnant when she ran, so he shows up when Jude is 7 and murders both of her parents right in front of her, and then because she is the child of his former wife, he's like, well, I've got to do my duty by my former wife, so I'm going to actually take these two mortal girls, because Jude has a twin. I'm going to take these two mortal girls along with my daughter, and I'm going to raise them like they are my own children. And he does try to do that to the best of his ability. However, unfortunately for Jude and Taryn, they are human, they are mortal, and mortality is really looked on as kind of a weakness, as not wanted in the fairy realm. Mortals are usually servants. A lot of the time they are glamored and forced to do things against their will. The girls are protected a little bit by magic, but that doesn't mean that some of the fairies don't still do awful stuff to them. So the story really picks up when Jude is 17 and she decides that she wants to be a fairy knight. She wants to be able to have a place in the king's court so no one can actually hurt her. Jude's basic entire story is amassing power so that she cannot be hurt by the people who have been hurting her. And through this, she has kind of an antagonist relationship with the youngest of the king's sons, Carden, and they just sparks fly in the best way, and it is a disaster, and it is a mess, and they are legitimately the epitome of dumbass Slytherin energy, and I love it. If you're interested in my reviews for the first and second book, I will have that linked in the cards and down below in the description box. I gave full reviews for both of them. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. That should surprise no one because the last 2 books got 5 out of 5 stars. So one of the things I really liked about this book is it was really fast and an effortless read. I didn't find myself having to reread passages a lot unless I wanted to, because they were so good. Don't turn off on me, you. It's interesting because these books have been getting shorter and shorter. This one is shorter than The Wicked King. The Wicked King is shorter than The Cruel Prince. However, I don't feel like this needed to be more than the 305 pages that it was. I mean, I do, but that's a personal preference, and we'll get to that in a minute. There wasn't a single part of this story that I felt like Holly Black wasted. Like there were no wasted moments. I really liked the fact that we got to see that the characters had absorbed the lessons that they've learned in the last 2 books, and they're really they're struggling with them in this book. They're struggling with the fact that they're like, maybe I should change some of my behaviors, and they're trying to do that, but at the same time, it is hard because it's hard to change things that you have used as coping mechanisms. And Jude has so many coping mechanisms considering how she was raised and what happened when she was 7. Speaking of coping mechanisms and all that, I really liked the arc this romance has taken from book 1 all the way to this book. I feel like we have seen consistent growth and self-awareness as we go with these characters and this story. I feel like what started out as something that I was like, this is not a great relationship. I really liked how it resolved in the end. Is it perfect? No, but I still just loved it. It was everything. This book was everything I wanted in this book to be, and then a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't know I wanted. Like, Holly Black gave me things I didn't even know I needed for these characters. Let's just be honest about it. So for things I did not particularly enjoy, there wasn't much. There was only one slight sticking point I had, and at the same time, I understand why this part of my soul was not quite fulfilled the way I would have liked it to be fulfilled, and that's because it just would have made the story drag. I understand. You have to, I do. I just would have liked a little bit more like Jude and Carden in scenes together. Like, we have some of it, there's a good amount of it, but just there wasn't enough to satisfy me, and that's just because I'm me. Like, I loved this, it was everything I needed, it was everything I wanted. However, I also would have been happy with like a 305-page fanfic of Jude and Cardan just going to therapy and working through their issues together. That would have made me happy. And we obviously didn't get that. We got a little bit of it. We got a little bit of them working through their issues. But I would have liked just the whole book to just be the two of them the entire time and no one else. Personal preference, I understand. I didn't dock any stars for it because, like, that is my personal preference, and that also would not have served the story very well. So the characters seemed, how do I describe this? Like, they seemed a little bit, I don't want to say off. They seemed a little bit different, and I think you could really tell that Jude has been sitting with what happened in the events of the Cruel Prince and the Wicked King, and she has kind of ruminated on them and come to acceptance with them. You can tell that she's got a little bit different attitude at the beginning of this book than she had when we start in the Cruel Prince, and really different from when we start in the Wicked King. I feel like the time away from Fairy has really helped her maybe adjust and deal with things that she needed to deal with. I really appreciated the fact that we get a little more of Cardan's backstory and why Cardan is the way that Cardan is. I don't think it excuses him, but I do think it makes who he is in the first book make more sense, especially considering the changes that happen in The Wicked King and in Queen of Nothing. I love the fact that there is growth that happens on both sides. Like, there is very clear growth on Jude's side of the story. There is very clear growth on Cardan's side of the story. Like, the other characters also grow. Some of them are forced to be in positions where they're going to grow eventually in the future. I'm not going to talk too much about that because that's a spoiler, but still, it's like, it ended on such a great note. I loved it. She also introduces a few new characters that really serve the story. Like, I knew exactly what some of these characters were supposed to be there for when we introduced her, especially like a Grimamog. I was like, oh, I know what we're doing with this. I know exactly what we're doing with this. Also, Cardan is bae. I love him, and I just do, okay? I just do. Like, he is what you mean when you say the villain is just misunderstood and they're really a good person on the inside. Like, when you look at a villain and you're like, oh, they have so much potential to be a good person, that's Cardan for me. Like, I love him. And you will understand, if you read this book, you will understand why my love for Cardan has only grown as I've read these books, because he's a mess in the first book, and slightly less of a mess in The Wicked King, and just a little bit less of a mess in this one. And then he's a huge mess. It's great. Getting into world building, I think one of the reasons why this book is so much shorter than The Cruel Prince is because we don't have to spend a lot of time on world building. Holly Black did a really good job of setting up the world in The Cruel Prince. She did all of that groundwork in The Cruel Prince, and so in The Wicked King, and especially Queen of Nothing, which is a world that we have already been in for 2 books, she didn't need as much space to really explain things. We already knew how things worked. I really appreciated it. I liked the fact that a lot of what she uses in this book is just expansion on things that we already knew, and not so much introducing new things and concepts. Like, there's obviously the prophecy, and we get a little bit of that, but we already know some of that from the last couple of books, but she's just elaborating on it and showing us how it fits in with the plot. One of the things I really liked is the fact that it kind of had this very deceptive atmosphere in this book where you realize a lot of things are a lot simpler than they seem at first glance. That was so good. I just love the fact that you kind of got that slap in the face that you're sitting there thinking this is going to be this huge, big, complicated thing, and then she's just like, yeah, but it's not. That's the whole point, is it's not as complicated as it seems. As for the pacing and the plot, again, I really thought it was well placed. I didn't find a single scene that I was like, why is this scene here? I was entertained through all of it. I felt like it all had something to do with what was happening in the main story. It was great. Also, one of the things that she does really well is she gets you kind of comfortable in the status quo, and then she will absolutely flip it on its head. She does it like a couple of times in this book. She does it more to Jude than maybe to the reader sometimes, but oh, it was so good how you'd be like, oh, okay, I think I see how this is going to be solved and resolved, and she'd be like, ah, you're close, but not quite there. Basically, I just had a really fun time reading this book. A lot of it was me going, Jude is stressing me out for most of the book. Like, she just was stressing me out in this book, and I loved it. It was amazing. I really think that if you like the first 2 books, you will enjoy this book. I think if you didn't like the first book as much, I think the second and third book you will like a lot more, because just character growth happens. It's wonderful. I love it. So that was my review of The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Also, if you are new here and you like videos about books and writing, hit that subscribe button. That is it for now, my friends. Happy reading, and I will see you later when we will talk about more wordy, nerdy things. Bye!